Hi everyone, I'm here today with Jody in the beautiful Arizona desert, and we're going to talk about van dwelling, in particular for van dwelling for women. So Jody, welcome. Let's just start, with your story. How did you you've been living mobile for a while now?
About 3 years now.
3 years. Yeah. And how did you end up living mobile?
I was a painter, a landscape painter.
You were making a living as an artist?
Yes. And I was driving through the Great Smokies with a friend and said, this is so beautiful, I could just live here and paint. And she said, well, you could do that, just buy a truck, just buy a vehicle and go do it. So it got me thinking, okay. And I thought it was quite impossible, really, And then I found several websites that told me I could live that way. So slowly it progressed, and I bought a box van and converted it and started camping on the weekends to get feeling secure.
So you were pretty afraid in the beginning?
Very afraid. It was so directly opposed to the way everybody else lives, really, in my world.
Have you been handy all your life, or?
Not really. I've worked on construction sites, but as a painter, not as a carpenter. Mm-hmm. So I've been around tools, and I know how they're used. But really, especially for women that think they can't, there's a book in the library for everything. So I just went to the library and checked out books on how to build X, Y, and Z. None of them are going to tell you how to build a box van,
right? But
it's the same concept.
So you just, and as a landscape artist, you especially wanted to be in nature where you could work.
Yes.
And did you, how long from when your friend first said that to you were living in a van?
Well, I bought the box truck, right?
Right. Pretty immediately?
Pretty immediately, within 2 weeks. Converted it, lived in it on the weekends. I worked as a cook at a restaurant also to pay for the truck. And I immediately did an about face, basically. Like, I had plans to go work for Amazon, and I had plans to come out here to Quartzsite. Like 3 years ago, I had a job lined up in Quartzsite through work camping.
Workcamper.com?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And ended up going to Israel, of all places, instead of Quartzsite.
So not in your box van.
Not in my box van. So it kind of waylaid my plans a little bit. And when I came back from Israel, I decided the one place I really wanted to be was Alaska. So I went to Alaska, bought a van, started living in it there. So it kind of was I sold the truck, to get to Alaska.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you never actually did full-time in the box van?
Did not full-time.
You got started and practiced in it?
Yes, and I did not care for it. I think we talked about that. I didn't feel safe in the box van.
Because you didn't have a pass-through.
I did not have a pass-through.
Right.
It was completely separate on the back. You had to go in the back. I had a beautiful back door I built, but there was no exit. I had a side window that I put in, but there was no exit.
But that is also a problem with all the slide-in truck campers and a number of vehicles, trailers of all kinds. You've got to get out to go around.
Right.
And that just isn't as safe.
Mm-mm. Well, and it's not as convenient either.
Right.
It's so nice to be able to, on a rainy day, just jump in your front seat.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to do a separate video altogether on your work camping experiences because they're so important. But so you went to Alaska and you work camped there. For how long did you work camp there?
Just short of 7 months.
And you bought a van there.
I did.
Converted it. Went to the lumberyard and built everything you needed.
Yeah, very simple.
And lived there in Alaska for 7 months, and then sold it and came down to the lower 48.
Yes.
Then at the end of that season, you flew home.
Yes.
And bought another van.
I worked for a couple months to save up some more money. It's always about money.
It is, yep.
And then bought this van.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell us, give us the rundown on this van.
It's yellow.
It's bright yellow. There's no getting around that.
Yeah, right. But it's a '07 Ford E250. I bought it used, obviously. Got a really great deal on it. Took it to the mechanic. Not a thing wrong with it. They could find nothing wrong with it. So I said, okay.
And what had it been used for in its previous
It was
life?
a Stanley steamer.
And you said you thought because it was yellow you got a better price.
I did, yes. Yeah, I mean, yellow and windowed together are not a big sale item for your normal person.
Right.
Yeah.
Homeowner doesn't want yellow.
No.
Another guy who wants a cargo van doesn't want windows.
Want windows.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you were telling me you learned something about the van you bought in Alaska that changed your thinking about the van you wanted to buy. What was that?
The van in Alaska was a passenger van, so the inside walls were finished, and the seats were in there. I took them all out, but I really wanted a cargo van this time because I wanted to be able to insulate it and finish it the way I wanted to finish it. There was not enough insulation in the van in Alaska.
Oh yeah, that's
Right.
really important in Alaska.
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted a blank slate. I wanted to be able to do it the way I wanted to do it.
It's really nice to be able to see the ribs and attach things to the ribs, and you know exactly where they are. You're not guessing.
Exactly. You know where the electrics run. You know where the everything.
Right. You see it all. And one of the main things about, especially the newer you get in vans, the plastic is really becoming obtrusive
Yes.
and taking out a gigantic amount of space.
Yes.
And so you didn't really care about the windows, but that just, you got such a deal, so you took the windows.
Well, I actually am opposed to many people. I like the windows.
Yes, I think I do too.
Yeah.
But
I
you
like having them.
almost certainly covered them with insulation. I see the reflectix.
The driver's side wall is completely covered with insulation.
Styrofoam or something?
I put Reflectex, and then I put styrofoam with the foil
Mhm.
board, and then I covered it with a cedar plywood, basically, and spray painted those windows darker, you know, because I knew I wouldn't need those windows. These are covered, but I can take these down.
And
you know.
see out.
So when I'm like this, if I want to have a vista view, I can have that,
Right.
you know.
And but we're getting some cold nights, so you can cover it back up and stay
Exactly.
warm.
Precisely.
That's a good balance.
Yeah.
Also, you're parked with your windows to the south, so you're getting the full heat of the sun,
Yeah.
and yet your north windows are insulated, so you're retaining it,
Exactly.
which on a cold night is a pretty good thing.
Right. You learn that very quickly.
Yeah. You think the desert's not cold, but it can be,
Yes, it
as
is.
you now can attest.
30 last night.
Yeah, 30 last night. So you've been doing it 3 years now.
Yeah.
And what were your primary motivations when you started? You wanted to paint. Would that be your main motivation?
No, the main motivation is nature for me. I do better in Alaska, just totally underlined it for me. I feel so much more at peace in nature than I do in a city setting or a stick and brick dwelling, or even I've been out on remote pieces of property. I like to be able to sit in nature and move with it, and change my view of it as I want to.
So after 3 years, and you've got a pretty good idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Are you so glad you did?
Absolutely.
Are you still glad you did this?
Wouldn't trade it for the world.
Really? You wouldn't?
Wish I'd done it earlier.
If you had all the money you needed, you wouldn't go back to living in a house, buy a house in a cabin in the woods somewhere?
No.
No?
No.
This is the life for you.
If I had all the money in the world, I might buy a piece of property just to park on.
Uh-huh.
That would be it.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot, and I feel that way exactly the way. And I bought a little piece of land just for that reason myself. And so after 3 years, what would you say you did right and you would have changed if you could have? Anything you would change?
I would have figured out a way to drop the fear immediately. None of my fear has been justified. None of it. I've not encountered, not saying that people don't, I've not encountered anything, be it human or animal or mechanical, which is always a fear,
Big fear.
that justified any of my fear. So I would have dropped the fear, like it's just what keeps me in the same place.
So your advice would be just overcome the fear and go for it.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yes, totally. It's ridiculous.
And it sounds like you were never a rich person. You
No.
always had to find the money to do the next thing.
Yes.
Like all of us.
Right.
Like we're all pretty much in that boat. I got to come up with the money to buy the van, and then
Right.
the next step, and so on and so on.
Right. Yeah, pay off your debt.
Right.
Pay off your debt. Don't carry it. It
Right.
makes it so much simpler.
Right.
Gives you so much more freedom. Pay off your debt. The other thing that I think I learned is I don't need half the things I thought I would need to start out.
I tell the story when I first on the low. I lived in a box van also for 6 years, which I had so much room I could have too much stuff.
Yeah.
And then when I moved into a tiny little camper, I mean it was 6 foot by 7 foot, and left. I left a breadcrumb trail. If I could put GPS and all the stuff I left at little thrift stores across the country,
Yes.
I could have a little breadcrumb of all my travels. Oh, I don't need this. I can't room. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. And
Right.
it's kind of an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
We all face that.
Right. I think the other thing, we'll see it when you go in the van, but the layout for me has evolved.
Yes.
Like how I had it in the beginning to how I have it now is drastically different.
Right.
And I would say don't be afraid of that either. You just rip it out and you redo it.
Right.
It's never taken me more than half a day really to reconfigure some piece of the van that didn't work, like my bed, moving it from this way to this way,
Right.
Don't be afraid to rip it out and start over if it feels better some other way.
So, and even in your case, you started with a box fan and found that didn't work
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't have, mainly because it didn't have the pass-through.
Yep.
And you didn't live long enough. I imagine the gas mileage would have played a role too eventually.
It was actually great gas
You got to be
mileage.
kidding,
It
really?
was it was a GMC truck. I mean, it was a small box van, and it got 15 to 18.
That's astounding.
Yeah, it was so I can't complain that way. Yeah, but it's also bulkier. Like it's the top weight, that feeling
Mhm.
of movement with the box. That's because it's not attached to as one contiguous piece.
And wanting to be in nature, being able to go a little
Exactly.
bit back country is something that was important to you.
Yeah, I think it wouldn't have been anywhere near as easy on the vehicle
Right.
to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, going along with that, your advice would be don't be embarrassed to make a change.
Yeah.
Dump one vehicle, get another. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once you got the right vehicle for you, don't be afraid to change the inside.
Exactly. It just keeps morphing.
Right.
Yeah.
And probably will again.
I'm absolutely certain of it. I already have plans.
I have plans, yes. It's always something going on in the back of your mind. If I
Right.
change that.
Yes. Yes.
So your advice to the ladies and even the men out there would be what? Who are thinking about this but not sure.
Well, and especially the ladies, you can do this. I mean, that's the underlying statement for all of it, is that part of you that wants to do it, let it go free. You can do this. Whatever the fear is that's holding you back or the thought, you can do this. I mean, there's nothing to it, really. And you'll learn that if you just let yourself. Yeah, just
Great.
do it.
Well, thank you, Jody. I really appreciate your sharing your story with us.
Thanks.
Next, folks, we're gonna move into the van and look around and look at the details of how Jody's fixed it up. She's done a really nice job, I think. And we do have a lot of vans that are just superbly built and look like they're going to win awards. You don't have to do that. I'm not the carpenter to do that. None of my places look that way. All you need is functional and practical, and Jody's completely accomplished that. A comfortable, cozy little home, and anyone can do it. So let's go inside and take a look at that. Here we go.